We are living through the era of fake MSRPs, at least for decent quality products. But the Intel Arc B580 is finally inching closer to MSRP, which means this build should finally be possible. This build is a very capable 1440p machine that only costs $580. Are there a few compromises? Yes, but I swear it's worth it, and honestly, the parts are fine. So let's talk parts. Obviously, the star of the show is the B580. In our build, we have the Gunnier Tri model that I picked up locally for $250. This week, I've seen a couple of B580s at MSRP, and they can regularly be found for slightly above MSRP at $279 on Newegg. With 12 gigabytes of VRAM, we have more than enough headroom to play at 1440p with no issue. Next, we had to pick our CPU platform. And honestly, looking for value and a decent and relatively inexpensive upgrade path leaves us with slim pickings. We really can't afford DDR5, so we landed on one of the budget stars of the last few years with the i3-12100F. Yes, it's only 4 cores and 8 threads. Yes, there are some overhead issues with the B580 and lower-end CPUs, but when you look at the benchmarks, you'll agree that $64 with a stock cooler and often can be found cheaper without. It's just good value and it's hard to beat. Now, with our motherboard, I need you to hear me out. H610 motherboards are perfectly fine for i3s and non-K i5s on this platform. This will not hold back lower-end to mid-range parts. According to Tom's Hardware, if you are not trying to run the best Alder Lake has to offer, it's a good way to get the latest and greatest Intel has to offer. Okay, now that you're on board, listen, this steal I found on Newegg. $51 for our DDR4 H610 motherboard. Now, is it a household name like Asus or Gigabyte? No, but I have no doubts that our Huan An Shi will keep things ticking over. Yes, it does support XMP. It does look like it is about $68 now, and there are better B760 boards that can be found on AliExpress for like $62. The last tough decision we had to make was on RAM and storage. I really like 32 gigabytes for gaming nowadays, and with our board only having 2 DIMM slots, upgrading down the line means replacing both sticks. So I grabbed this 3200 CL16 kit of King Spec DDR4 for $42. That did mean our storage had to be cut down to 512 gigabytes with our King Spec NVMe drive coming in at $32. The last thing we picked up from Newegg was the case, and let me let you in on a little secret. You're patient. You can pick up the Zalman S3 case refurbished on Newegg fairly regularly for about $36, and that is exactly what we did here. It isn't the best case in the world, but the 3 provided fans keep temps in check. Plus, we have a tempered glass side panel, so it's hard to argue with the value here. Then we headed over to Amazon and grabbed the 600-watt Apevia Prestige, which is rated C on the PSU tier list. It can be found on Amazon for like $52 all day long. And that is all the hardware we need. Altogether, we spent $527. And if you had to use a bit more expensive motherboard and paid over MSRP for the B580, we would still be well under budget, which would leave us enough money to get Windows activated from our sponsor, KeysFan. We've all been there. We put together the PC of our dream, and it is just in our budget, and then it hits you. You forgot to add Windows 11. We don't have an extra $140 to spend. That's where KeysFan comes in. With Windows 11 and 10 keys at deeply discounted prices, KeysFan can help keep our budget intact so we can spend the money on parts that improve performance. Using KeysFan, we can save over $100 on Windows 11 Home, and $100 is the difference between getting an RTX 5050 and an RX 9060 XT 16 gigabyte. Use promo code LRT50 when checking out to get 50% off your copy of Windows 10 or 11, or promo code LRT62 to get 62% off Microsoft Office. Thanks to KeysFan for sponsoring this video, and now let's get back to the video. Starting off strong, the B580, or more accurately, the 12100F, averaged 201 FPS in CS2 at 1440p native medium settings. A pretty strong start. But digging deeper, we see some cracks in the armor. The 1% and 0.1% lows of 94 and 41 show us dipping below 100. The gameplay was smooth, however, maybe not as high as some may expect in this title, even if it was at 1440p. Ah yes, time for the 8-year-old title 8-year-olds love. Fortnite does have a bit of an issue with Intel Arc. Performance mode, the preferred API of many players, crashed incessantly when using the B580. After some research and a well-timed reminder from a friend, I switched over to DX12 and stability was found. Native 1440p low epic view distance, we saw averages of 178 with 85 and 43 1% and 0.1% lows. Again, my playing experience was smooth and I didn't notice the drops in gameplay. Benchmark connoisseurs know the story of Marvel Rivals. It has the visuals and the feel of games like Overwatch, but like half the performance. Nevertheless, we managed pretty good performance with room to lower fidelity even further in the pursuit of higher FPS. Native 1440p medium settings with an 85% resolution scale, the B580 pushed out 90 FPS. FrameGen and 1080p are other options for you if a sub 100 FPS experience is unacceptable, Mr. or Miss Pro Gamer. Probably Mr., but 1% of you aren't. Frequent watchers of the channel know that if I'm showing Marvel Rivals, that Black Ops 6 is soon to follow. I benchmarked this game alongside another one of my friends, and unfortunately, I was in a lobby far higher than my meager skill level. Nevertheless, the B580 averaged 95 FPS at native 1440p basic settings. Judging by the 1080p average of 128 FPS, you could easily add some upscaling and be playing at over 120 FPS at 1440p. Moving into our AAA suite, Doom the Dark Ages is getting a well-earned reputation among gamers for being distinctly un-Doom-like, in the sense that sky-high frame rates just aren't that common. To get the best experience out of this mandatory ray tracing title, we had to enable upscaling at 1440p. Medium settings with XeSS set to an 85% resolution scale, we averaged 70 FPS. More encouraging were the lows with 1% and 0.1% of 54 and 42, keeping the experience smooth and stutter-free. In Oblivion Remastered, we had our first real error, though we were able to bypass it with patience. Upon first boot, we were told we lacked the recommended amount of cores to play, but we were able to click OK and game on. After 3 to 5 minutes of waiting, we loaded into the main menu, and after a few further minutes, we were finally in Cyrodiil. Once we were in, I was scared on how bad performance would be. But apart from the stutters that are common on a lot of systems in this game, it was fine. 1440p medium settings with XeSS set to balanced, we managed 65 FPS with 1% lows of 40 and 0.1% of 5. We need a bit of a palate cleanser. Loading up Forza Horizon 5 should do the trick. Microsoft's very well-optimized title at least comparatively shines at native 1440p high settings, with averages of 132, 115, and 96. I mean, if you only gamed at the 0.1% low averages, you would still be having a great experience. A truly great outing for the B580. Last, but certainly never least, the turn-based former Game of the Year could be played around 30 FPS for a decent experience. Thankfully, at native 1440p ultra settings, we had well over double that with 71 FPS for our average. There were dips and drops in certain moments, but with some settings tweaked or a tiny bit of upscaling, I have no doubt we could average easily in the hundreds. So that's the system tested, and honestly, I'm very impressed. I tried to make repeatable builds that I myself would be happy to game on, and I think this one truly is a success. I recently built my friend a PC, and she wanted to get into gaming with her fiance. So I used the i3-12100F, and it has suited her needs perfectly. The i3 could be considered by some to be a weak point, but for its price point, I think it's hard to beat. That being said, one day dropping in something like an i5-14400 would be a great performance uplift, and you'd be able to squeeze even more out of your B580. But let me know your thoughts down below. I think personally, playing at 1440p for less than $600 using all new parts, that's impressive. And it shows maybe Team Blue still has something to offer in 2025. But if you enjoyed today's video, please like and subscribe as it helps push the video out to other people who may be looking for something just like this. Many thanks for watching all the way to the end, and check out my last video where I saw how much gaming you can or can't do on a $25 graphics card in 2025. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, stay lucky.